What's up everyone, 2.0 has finally arrived, and with it comes the highly anticipated Yixuan. She is the newest agent to hit the game and a part of the all-new class of characters called Rupture. With Rupture comes a host of mechanics and playstyles we've never seen before in the game, so to help you play and build Yixuan effectively, I'll explain her kit, her build, and all other things you need to know about her. But before we get into her kit, to understand Yixuan, it's vital we understand Rupture and what makes Rupture agents so different. Think of them as attack units or damage dealers, but with a big twist. They ignore 100% of enemy defense, which results in their exceptionally high damage, but also rendering defense shooting stats like pen ratio or flat pen useless with them. What further sets them apart is their all new stat, Sheer Force. Sheer Force is the stat that enables Yixuan to deal sheer damage. You can sort of regard it as Rupture's elemental damage. It's an essential stat attacks heavily depend on, and as with any important stat, you want to increase it. Yet remarkably, Yixuan is able to raise it up on her own. It is increased by 30% of her attack plus 10% of her HP. Given that Yixuan will have significantly higher HP than attack, her sheer force primarily scales with her health, making HP a very important stat for her, and attack being secondary but still useful. This is the core concept behind Yixuan's Rupture class, and now let's get into her complex kit, but not to worry, I'll break it down in an easy to understand way. First up, her basic attacks. They're a good set of basic attacks. You'll notice their strong damage in that they're very flashy, but equally flashy is the gold damage that comes from them. This stems from Yixuan's special element, Auric Ink. Though gold, it's essentially a special version of the ether element, much like how Miyabi's frost element is a special version of ice. So with her element, she can trigger corrupted, and in fact corruption will come about very easily with her special basic attack. When Yixuan has enough adrenaline, holding her basic attack will perform her bread and butter ability, Cloud Shaper, an attack that surrounds enemies with auric ink, continuously damaging them the longer you hold, but be aware that the longer you hold, the more adrenaline Yixuan will consume. Now, what the heck is adrenaline? Good question. Adrenaline is a special bar below her HP that's unique to Rupture agents, but don't worry, it's very simple. It's basically the exact same as a normal energy bar. Just by playing and attacking, Yixuan will gain adrenaline and consume adrenaline with special attacks. However, performing specific actions like triggering anomalies or perfect dodging restores an additional 10 and 5 adrenaline. But back to Cloud Shaper, this is an incredibly important ability of Yixuan's, as noted by her additional ability. Her Cloud Shaper and Auric Inks, or her entire holding attack, inflicts 30% more damage to stunned enemies. It's clear with this additional ability that Cloud Shaper is a move you want to use repeatedly, particularly on stunned enemies. But Cloud Shaper isn't her only adrenaline consuming move. Yixuan also has a set of very powerful special attacks. After an initial EX special attack, you can dish out more, and with sufficient adrenaline, you can deal her very powerful Qingming Eruption. But like Cloud Shaper, it can be held to consume greater adrenaline. If Yixuan is hit when charging, she'll immediately counter with the special attack, yet she can even parry with this attack and with the bonus of granting extra adrenaline. Either of these two attacks are the ones you should focus on and expend your adrenaline on. Moving on, let's discuss her very important and incredibly strong ultimate. Yixuan yields not one, but two ultimates. Her first ultimate charges up as usual through building up decibel points with various attacks, while her second ultimate becomes available through an entirely different set of points. As you spend adrenaline, Yixuan will accrue technique points, which is displayed on the bar to the left. At max, her second ultimate unlocks, which is called Endless Talisman Suppression. In addition to exceptional damage and having two ultimates, Yixuan's ultimates are key to her damage. Casting either causes her to enter the meditation state, boosting her crit damage by 40%. Yet, there's even more benefits to her second ultimate. When unleashed, Yixuan gains 1 ink point, a special resource needed for her incredibly useful ability called Auric Array. This ability is part of her basic attacks and is done by holding the dodge button, and doing so will surround the enemy with the field of ink, followed by Yixuan performing her EX special attack, Qingming Eruption. Impressive damage is definitely here with this ability, but its true value is in its generation of a high 21 adrenaline. By now, you should have a good idea of how to play her, but if it's still a lot to take in, overall, build adrenaline through various abilities. Then use adrenaline draining moves like your Cloud Sphere or EX special attacks. You can probably use them when the enemy is getting stunned, but you absolutely want to save enough adrenaline for when the enemy is stunned. Bearing all this in mind, as you begin to level Yixuan's abilities, start with her core passive to boost her key attacks, then upgrade her special attack and ultimate. Follow that with her basic attacks, dodge moves, and quick assists. On to the build portion of the video. I'll explain what are the best engines to use on Yixuan, but interestingly, because Yixuan has a unique role, this means that she can't use the traditional engines we already have and have leveled. Rather, she must use the all-new Rupture W engines. This makes things more simple since there's not that many, but still there are important things you should know about them. Off the get-go, her best W engine is her signature, and it is a powerhouse. It boasts a massive basic attack and a hefty 30% HP boost to maximize her sheer force. The birdcage also improves important stats like crit rate, ether damage, and even sheer damage for her ultimate and special attacks. The next strongest engine is from the battle pass, the Radio Wave Journey. Like the S rank, it has a good attack and HP, while also having quite a good passive, whereby when a chain attack or ultimate is used, the user gains stacks that buff their sheer force to a max of 240. Considering Yixuan can use chain attacks and has 2 ultimates, she can absolutely gain max stacks and increase her sheer force a great amount. Behind these 2 options is a free and craftable Rupture engine, but I'm happy to say that it's actually a very good W engine, and you'll see what I mean. It's called the Puzzle Sphere. It's definitely not the nicest looking engine, and worse yet, it has an attack percentage substat. Now remember that attack percentage is still a usable stat for Yixuan. Nonetheless, the passive buffs crit damage by 16% when the wearer EX special attacks, so Yixuan can use this throughout a battle, but if your opponent's HP is below 50%, only in that portion of the fight does she get an extra 20% damage to her EX special attacks. The difference between the battle pass and craftable sphere is incredibly small. From my findings, the difference is so tiny, you probably won't even notice it. Therefore, you should just save your money, overclock the puzzle sphere to 5 and use it. There's really no reason to pay for an engine that nets you little to no improvement from the free-to-play option. You're better off saving for a new Rupture engine that will soon come out most likely. For those of you just starting out the game, there's only one B rank engine, so simply just equip this one. Before I continue, if you've enjoyed the video and have gained from it, I'd appreciate if you could quickly like the video and possibly subscribe. This helps me out a ton and would mean a great bit, but back to the video, let's now get into the strongest drive discs for Yixuan. Unsurprisingly, I need to talk about the newest set. It gives HP percent for its 2-piece, and for its 4-piece, when the user deals an EX special attack, chain attack, or ultimate, they gain a stack of 4 extra crit rate, to a max of 3 stacks, totaling to 12% crit rate in total. When 3 stacks are met, an increase of 10% sheer force damage is granted. This set is perfect for her. It gives her everything she wants. It raises her HP, gives her crit rate as any damage dealer would want, and better yet, it increases her sheer force damage. This set makes her deal the highest damage and makes building her much easier. So this is the only drive disc set you should use as your 4-piece. As you work towards the set, in the meantime, you could go for 4-piece Chaotic Metal. Similar to the Tails, you get good crit, yet you're a good bit reliant on Corruption, which if you don't want to be tied to this, you'd then want Woodpecker Electro. It gives you crit rate and attack, and again, while the latter isn't optimal, it's still very much usable. As for the 2 pieces to pair with these sets, I recommend using 2 Woodpecker Electro. In Yixuan's kit, she already gets crit damage, making crit rate hard to come by and much more valuable, so it's best to use Woodpecker Electro, but say you have amazing crit rate or you're using her signature, you should then opt for Branch and Blade Song for greater crit damage. 2 Chaotic Metal and any 2-piece giving attack are also viable. The 2 output damage that was very close, so in this case, use whichever of the sets have better substats. You could also use the new set as your 2-piece. Moving to main stats, use either crit rate or crit damage on your 4th slot. As normal, this will depend on your crit ratio, but given the crit damage buff we went over, crit rate is likely better. Next up for the 5th slot, you have a number of options. The absolute best stat here is ether damage, yet it's just barely better than HP HP percentage. As such, if you have an amazing HP piece, it's maybe best to go with that over ether damage, but regardless, these two stats are the ones you want to use. You could also use attack percentage, but it should only be temporary until you get either of the two stats I just mentioned. This is the same case for the final slot. HP is king, but attack percentage is usable in the meantime. When you level your discs, aim for both crits, HP percentage, and flat HP, then attack in that same order. Now let's shift over to Yixuan's Mindscapes, and if her kit wasn't any indicator, she's a stupidly strong character, so naturally, her Mindscapes are also broken. But truth be told, I really don't think you need her Mindscapes. She's already strong as it is, but if you are trying to get the greatest bang for your buck with Mindscapes, Yixuan is probably the one for you. Her first raises her crit rate perpetually and grants her 120 technique points, so she can immediately use the second version of her ultimate, or at the very least have it ready very quickly. Yixuan also gains some extra damage and quality of life, I suppose, as she deals off-field damage and gains 5 adrenaline through this means. On to Mindscape 2, which takes things up a notch, both in damage and mechanics, but surprisingly it lacks any wall of text. Whenever Yixuan's ultimate or EX special attack hits enemies, which will be very frequent, enemies' ether resistance is shredded by 15%. Plus, when her first ultimate is cast, enemies will be further stunned for 3 extra seconds. And after all these attacks, an additional hit scaling on 1200 of sheer force will be dealt to enemies. Mindscape 4 continues this increase in damage, but this time around it focuses on her Cloud Shaper attacks by increasing its damage by 30% after an ultimate is used. Since she has 2, this attack can be buffed by a huge 60%. Last, the Mindscape that I thought would break the game but is still very strong, her M6. After her Decibel ultimate or first ultimate, Yixuan gains a stack which enables her to use her second ultimate for free without needing the max technique points. She gains 20% sheer damage after using an ult. Finally, let's go over some great teams to play all of Yixuan's broken abilities. One team that'll no doubt be one of her top, and possibly even her best, starts with the Panda. He'll be in Yixuan's banner, and hopefully you get him, since if you do, you'll be in great standing. I forgot his name, so I'm just gonna name him Po, but Po is able to increase his team's sheer force and increase their damage. Therefore, he stands as a perfect and very effective teammate with Yixuan, who'll also trigger her very important additional ability. Next to him comes Fufu, who, although hasn't been released yet, is shaping up to be Yixuan's best stunner. Fufu will also provide a crit damage buff to Yixuan and buff ultimate damage, which will apply to both of her ultimates. So this duo of Po and Fufu caters to all of Yixuan's needs and improves all of her important attacks. Without a doubt, Yixuan will output absurdly high damage in this setup. But while this is good and dandy, you and I need a team to play Yixuan right now, so Fufu is out of the picture, and hopefully this isn't you, but say you don't even have Po. In this case, you should run Astra Yao with the stunner. Astra Yao stands as either Yixuan's best or second best buffer. Yes, she does increase attack and not HP, but she provides a damage percent buff and extra crit damage similar to Fufu. As for the stunner, Chingy is a great unit for all the extra stun damage she'll cause the enemy to take, which Yixuan can absolutely make more than good use of. These two teams are strong, but I know many of you are new to the game, so you could run Lycon and Sukaku together. Sukaku will give huge attack to Yixuan, which will make a noticeable increase to her sheer force. Then for Lycon, he's actually a good stunner for her. He'll stun enemies quickly and apply a nice 35% extra stun damage to them. And with the new set, he'll also increase your crit damage, so he's actually a pretty good stunner. And if you have Lycon and you want to best build him for 2.0, you can watch my updated guide on him right here. If you have any questions on Yixuan, be sure to ask me in the comments, and as always, thanks for watching.